The topic of the peace negotiations is security guarantees for Ukraine. What exactly are Ukraine's European partners promising Kyiv? What steps is the White House prepared to take, and how effective and reliable can these guarantees really be? Let's break it down. The need for reliable security guarantees for Ukraine was first discussed back in September 2022. And almost a year later, on the sidelines of the Vilnius summit, the leaders of the G7 agreed on a joint declaration in support of Kyiv. As a result, Ukraine and its Western partners signed 28 bilateral agreements on security cooperation. And these were completely different documents. Some parties committed to allocating a certain percentage of financial aid for Ukraine in their budgets. Others pledged to help with logistics and military training, and some, like Germany for example, agreed to supply modern air defense systems and artillery. Around the same time, a discussion began about the possible deployment of partner countries' military contingents in Ukraine. Today, dozens of countries are working on security guarantees for Ukraine, European states, Australia, Japan, and others. They are drawing up a list of commitments that should come into effect after a peace agreement is reached. And after Donald Trump's talks with Volodymyr Zelensky and European leaders in Washington, the group developing these guarantees was headed by U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio. The guarantees will take effect after a long-term ceasefire or a full-fledged peace agreement. The participation of the United States will be discussed in the coming days. During the meeting between U.S. President Donald Trump, Ukraine's Volodymyr Zelensky, and EU leaders at the White House, the deployment of European troops in Ukraine was not agreed upon, nor was the U.S. role in this process specified.
We achieved two significant results. The first, which concerns security guarantees, was an agreement that the coalition of countries willing to cooperate, that is, the 30 countries already working together on security guarantees, will now work with the United States on these guarantees, coordinating their actions. We have already instructed our teams to carry out further detailed work on this issue. This is truly important for the security of Ukraine, Europe, and the United Kingdom.
Later, the White House stated that the deployment of American troops in Ukraine is ruled out. At the same time, the United States can assist with coordination and logistics. As part of a potential peace agreement, Washington may provide air support to multinational forces in Ukraine. The President of the United States did not rule out this possibility.
When it comes to security, Europeans are ready to send their people on the ground. We are ready to help them, especially, most likely, from the air. Donald Trump, President of the United States, in an interview with Fox News.
The next 2 weeks will be decisive in finalizing security guarantees for Ukraine, the President of France stated. There are many contentious issues, but one of the most important points on which Americans and Europeans have reached an agreement is that no one has the right to limit the size of the Ukrainian armed forces. There should be no illusions about Putin's intentions. Emmanuel Macron is convinced.
We are all united by one thing. We want peace. We have reached agreements on a number of important points that, I must say, were not so obvious just a few weeks or even days ago. The first, and for me the most important, is the commitment from the United States to work with us on security guarantees. The American president, European leaders, and the president of Ukraine all want peace. But I have serious doubts about the sincerity of Putin's desire for peace. Because as long as he believes he can win through war, he will keep doing it. His ultimate goal is clear: to seize as much territory as possible, weaken Ukraine, and turn it into a country that either cannot exist independently or ends up within Russia's sphere of influence. Everyone can see that. That's why our goal is simple: to achieve peace as soon as possible, ensure respect for international law and Ukraine's sovereignty, minimize Ukraine's territorial losses, and above all, help Ukrainians withstand any new aggression.
The war against Ukraine is the biggest tactical and strategic mistake of the Russian dictator. This has been stated more than once by Finland's President Alexander Stubb. However, Putin is not the kind of person who can admit his mistakes. In any situation, he will lie and twist the truth. Even the fact that he agreed to negotiations with the president of Ukraine doesn't guarantee at all that they will actually take place.
But right now, we have to remember that Putin can rarely be trusted. So now we still have to find out whether he has the courage to show up for such a meeting, whether he has the guts to come to a trilateral meeting, or if he's just stalling again. Of course, if he really does keep stalling, then together we'll look for new solutions.
The Wall Street Journal, citing its sources, reports that Alexander Stubb, during negotiations at the White House, tried to convey to the U.S. president the full danger of such a move as handing over the entire territory of the Luhansk and Donetsk regions to Russia. He called the cities of Kramatorsk and Sloviansk bastions against the Huns, emphasizing the Kremlin's barbaric actions and Ukraine's role in holding them back. The German chancellor also had some strong arguments for Trump.
To illustrate the unacceptable scale of the concession that the American president expects from Ukraine, German Chancellor Friedrich Merz compared Donbass to Florida, Trump's home state. He emphasized that Russia's demand for Ukraine to give up part of Donbass is like demanding that the U.S. give up Florida. From a publication in the Wall Street Journal.
Before signing a peace agreement, a ceasefire must be established. Friedrich Merz also insisted on this during the summit in Washington. He reminded that this initiative came from the United States and was supported by Kiev. And for the past 6 months, Putin has refused to agree to a ceasefire under any pretext. Merz called on partners to unite and put pressure on Russia regarding this issue.
Genuine negotiations can only take place at a summit in which Ukraine itself participates. Such a summit is only possible if the weapons fall silent. I reiterated this demand today. Secondly, such a summit must be thoroughly prepared. We don't know if Putin will have the courage to attend such a summit, so convincing arguments are necessary.
Security guarantees for Ukraine were also commented on by the Russian Foreign Ministry. The head of the ministry, Lavrov, stated that they should supposedly be provided on an equal basis with the participation of countries such as China, the US, the UK, and France. But we've heard similar statements more than once since 2022. But first, the Kremlin demands that part of Ukraine's territory be handed over to Russia, talks about demilitarization and so-called denazification, and only then, according to the aggressor, can security guarantees be discussed. It's possible that the situation will repeat itself this time as well. The United Kingdom and the European Union are already preparing new restrictions against Russia in case Putin refuses direct high-level talks or drags out the process as usual. The 19th package of EU sanctions will be agreed upon next week and adopted at the beginning of September. This will serve as a kind of warning signal. If the dialogue does not take place, the pressure on Moscow will increase.